Okay, I'll try to be swift enough. In fact, I came here thinking I was going to be seated there just in a panel. I only got here and found out that there was a presentation, but I'll do my best. So I'm going to handle an overview of the system, but you realize the SDG thing is on the left because it's a tool or a vehicle we decided to ride on to propel the new change and direction we want to go to in the data space. Okay, so it still has the same thing to do with the SDG, and then the SDG is the 2030 agenda, and then the African agenda is the 2063, and in there sits the National Development Framework. We are an organization representing Ghana with the biggest interest being Ghana. So the national framework really matters, and it's all got to do with development. So the SDG is aligned to the 2063. Ghana has tried its best to align the 2063 agenda to the SDGs. So once you follow one, we are on the same path, as well as realize that the National Development Framework also has been aligned. So, I mean, you can pick one of them and you are safe to go. So there was a total assessment of our system, as in our data ecosystem in Ghana. And then we all know it's not the best. Yes, I mean, we can actually never even have it 100%. So there were a couple of things we found out. The assessment showed that there was data available. These were the focus areas of the assessment. Data availability, data sources, institutions, the timeliness of the data, frequency, disaggregation, and other sources where we could find, apart from the original sources where the data that is available is coming from. So this is an expanded version on areas we should be looking at, strengthening censuses and surveys. I'm sure, okay, let me go through. Utilizing administrative data, which is supposed to be the biggest interest area, because Ghana currently is dependent on using censuses and survey. It's doing close to about over 70% of it, and as such, it's very expensive to do censuses and survey. We should be looking at other ways of getting the data cheaper, so that it could be done on a regular basis. It could be collected on a regular basis, so that it could actually serve a lot more people. Data disaggregation, exploring new types of data, geospatial data, open data, citizen-generated data, which is the new thing around the world, big data, data communication, managing data ecosystem, evidence-based decision-making, and funding capacity building. Okay, so I'll talk about the three major areas. So these were the overarching areas we came to a conclusion on, that we needed to be filling the data gaps, we needed to encourage data use, and we needed to strengthen the entire data ecosystem. For time purposes, and we'll share the material, I think it's okay to go like this, right? Yeah. So I mentioned the SDG earlier on. I said that was our tool for riding our vehicle. And like I had mentioned about the surveys and censuses against administrative data, which is cheaper, and other sources. According to the SDGs, the indicators for the SDGs, if you look at it, indicators that are already produced from data in existence is 40%. The data available is 40.65, and then the mixture of the data that is not available is 19.35. This is just for the SDGs. This gives you an impression, and this is mostly data from censuses and surveys. The bigger chunk is coming from censuses and surveys, which is not done on a regular basis because population and housing census, for instance, is done in every decade. Yeah, which is not too safe for planning. So we should be looking at other areas. Some of the reasons why we should be looking at other areas. So some areas we've thought of because of the priority areas we picked, and we should be looking at. Okay, so the first thing is policy-wise. We are hoping this time around we will get what we want. The statistics bill, the new statistics bill is gone to Parliament. It's gone to 3 different parliaments. This is the 3rd parliament it's gone to, because Parliament keeps changing. Anytime it changes and the process is not completed, we start the whole process again. But this time around, we have the biggest hope that we will get it done. What this seeks to do is a lot more collaboration. That is how I would frame it. This one seeks to push a lot more collaboration with other agencies, like the UN, like the World Bank. Data for representing Ghana must come in some formats and standards. And as such, most of the time, it must come from the NSO. Globally, that's what it's called, the National Statistics Office. So globally, that's what is done. We can't produce that much. No matter how much effort we put into it in the next 10 years, and we need to catch up the gap because nobody is waiting for us. So we have to look at other innovative ways. So as part of that, there are phenomenal people in the data ecospace collecting a lot of data, research institutions, ESA, and the rest. In fact, a lot of them have a lot of capacity. What we have to look at is how to bring their capacity on board. So how do their data or their research work qualify to represent Ghana? When there is a structure that brings, so we are moving from Ghana Statistical Service to a national statistical system, where we become just the coordinators and we coordinate with other institutions to get more data. Because people are already even producing some data that will be relevant to Ghana, but it can't be used on a global scale because it's not coming from statistical service. And we think we have to collaborate to develop. When you are really thinking development and not selfish in a way, that's the best approach, the best way to go. So this is what the bill actually overacts. The main agenda is to bring a lot more people on board and allow us to actually use other sources, other means to be able to collect more data to serve the Ghanaian populace and the world at large. Digitizing data collection is one of the other things. I must admit, for the past like 7 years, 6-7 years, we've been using connected tablets or network tablets to collect data for a lot of our sample service. Yes, I like to be honest, the biggest large scale we tried was a trial census. It had its challenges, and it was because it was its first. So we've already had a pilot for the census 2020, and we are doing about 3 pilots to try and make sure all those challenges are covered before the census itself. So the pilots, the sample surveys we've been doing, GLSS, mix and the rest, we are comfortable and we do it with ease using the tablet since we started. Electronically, brilliant. We set it in any part of the country and then you enter the data and it gets onto our system, and in a short time we put the data together, do the cleaning, and we are getting there. We are cutting short time. Digitization is helping. But when we tried the large scale, of course, it's a new area. We found a little challenges. We are not as mastered as the sample service. So both the census. So we are still learning, and this time we are making sure that we are putting what we learn into practice. In fact, you should see that this is a new statistical ecosystem. If not, I'm sure you wouldn't have found a young man like me doing a presentation for such an organization. That alone should tell you a difference. Yeah. So of course, we know it's for quick data release for the processes to be more efficient and reduce data errors. If once not many people are doing the entry, then the errors are also reduced. So once it's entered from the field, that's all. Call detail records. This is another area we are looking at. We are looking at using, for instance, the phones you have here. You know all the networks have cell sites. So for instance, for migration purposes, somebody could have moved from the north to Accra for employment purposes. The cell site has that information that this identity has moved from the north to Accra. So it can help with migration. There are so many other benefits from using the call data records. Yes, I must admit before somebody calls me wrongly, data protection. Yes, the data is anonymized. Anybody who is going to work on it won't have access to your information. It's purely anonymized. It's taking about over since last year to sign the contract. We are doing it together with Flowminder, Vodafone Foundation, and then the Hewlett Foundation. In fact, the document is gone through, it comes to Ministry of Finance legal team. It goes back to the Vodafone Foundation legal team. It goes to Vodafone Ghana legal team. And then it just keeps rotating because we want to make sure that the customer is protected. Your information shouldn't be out in the public because by our statutes, even if we collect census data from you, we can't give you back the details of that data. It's only the frequencies, the analytical part that we can disseminate. Your data is protected, and that's our core mandate. So we can't do that too here. We can. That's why it's taking a while, but it's taking off now, and hopefully, so that's how the system will look like. It's quite a complex system where we said the data is supposed to be training the telco. We are using Vodafone data first, and we are hoping the other networks will come on board so that the data becomes bigger with time. Vodafone is donating their data for us to try our hands on. But you see, even in their system, it's locked up. You see the padlock button. So there are data that won't even, portions of the data that won't even come to us because they have also signed, they have an agreement with you, the subscriber. Yeah. Spatial and GIS data project. We're also looking at using spatial data to tell different stories or talk about other data forms that we can't find. And these ones are easy to read and it's quicker. And so there's also a project in that line together with 5 African countries. We're talking about Ghana, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Senegal, and Kenya. NASA is donating some huge terabyte of data, spatial data for us to use in analyzing our stuff. In fact, we've done some analysis on urban sprawl. Tamale is interesting over the past 10 to 17 years, and you would love it. So we've already started testing our hands on it based on the little trainings we have. So very soon we are trying to fill up gaps. So this is talking about proportion female who are illiterate, a representation in a geospatial way. Possible outputs for Ghana. This are supposed to be possible outputs for Ghana. Yeah. Indicator tracking platform. We are hoping to set up a whole database that tracks all Ghana's relevant indicators. It's supposed to be on the SDMX platform and putting everything together so that access is easier and people can pin into it and get what they want. In fact, a simplified one is being done for the SDGs so that you can monitor the SDGs at real time. It's supposed to be online so everybody can access. We don't have to come and tell you that. That's the whole idea. Quality assurance framework. So we talked about policy-wise and guidelines. I've spoken in the statistics bill that to get a lot more people on board. So if there are standards for which people are supposed to follow in conducting their research work, and maybe with a little collaboration from us, they don't need us all in their space all the time, then we could agree on something and then people can work in their own spaces and we can put the data together and we serve a greater good. Building the data ecosystem. So we are looking at capacity as well. Local government is helping us fill statistics officers around the various districts, training statistics officers to be able to boost their capacity for district assemblies to collect data and use data to plan properly. We are partnering with over 11 MDAs. They are policy planning units and then the research, statistics, and information management units so that we talk about evidence-based decision making. The policies that come from the ministry should be backed by data, and people should have the right and the capacity to be able to do that. Local partnerships. In fact, for the first time, when you see the list, that should tell you this is the new statistical service. We are collaborating with CSOs, MDAs, private sector, development partners, local authorities, traditional authorities, the media, and the general citizens. We also have foreign, apart from some foreign partnerships, Statistics Denmark, where I mentioned this administrative data, which is our main concentration because it's cheaper than the surveys and censuses. And then Office of National Statistics UK, data science capacity building, and they are helping us with other things, even including the census. Census Bureau, US Census Bureau, 2020 census, we are picking a lot of stuff from them. Statistics South Africa, what you call it, the data quality assurance. We are partnering with them together with Care Ghana. So I mentioned the CSOs. We are doing it in partnership with Care Ghana. Statistics Kenya, we are doing knowledge exchange with them. So this brings us to the end of my session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we can move to the stage now, all of us. Yes. Yeah. All right. Great. So we've had the presentation. If let me sit here. And I wanted to start from the extreme end, but we've heard William enough, so we will skip him and then come to Radhika. So Radhika, do you have any initial thoughts generally on data and sustainable development in Ghana? Yes. Thank you.
First, I think when we heard from William, we can see just how much has been done in the last few years. Ghana Statistical Service has made an enormous cultural change by making available data in an open format and making it much more accessible. How many of you, just by a show of hands, have actually tried to find any kind of government data and had problem? Either not being able to find it, or finding it in a PDF file or right-protected file, and not being able to access it. Only a few of you? Wow. So that means you either haven't looked for data, or you even thought you could find it. Because for the most part, it's quite difficult. But I think what William pointed out is that if you actually go to the GSS website, it's very easy to find data. So just to answer your question, Michael, I think it's become much, much better. But I think if you try some of the MDAs, there's still a lot of work to do.
Generally, data and sustainable development in Ghana, or even development generally in Ghana.
Yeah, I think data is really critical. I'm wearing the lens of private sector actor within the agricultural space. And data is really critical, especially data digitization is critical for agricultural transformation. You can't do things the same old way. We're having issues around climate change. The population of the world is growing. We're having changing consumer preferences. And you need data, near real-time data, to make informed decisions on how to meet such market demands. And without looking at what data offers, and in this sense, digitizing data, there's very little you can do. You will still, be under production. This links also to the sustainable development goals. If we are to ensure, food security for the world, we really need to look at areas where there are gaps. How do we, solve issues or mitigate smallholder farmers' challenge with climate vulnerabilities and all that? And data is critical for that.
Well, thank you very much. I couldn't agree more. I also think that data is very important for development. I will just move ahead to say that, in fact, we, regardless of, despite all the noise and marketing drives about AI and deep learning and IoT and all those things, beyond your sensors, all your sensors and all your gadgets are gathering are essentially data. So in that sense, data couldn't, the importance of data cannot be overemphasized. I think that we should grow more in our awareness of what data means and its importance, especially for decision makers and actionable data. That is, I'm a developer, so I play with data a lot. All the applications and services that you are doing, at the end of the day, it is being able to make sense of the data that has been collected. That is when you are able to derive value to the organization.
Thank you so much. The same way, I can't say no to data, right? So it's so important. It's like you just sit in a car and then you just want to drive anyway. That is how when you don't have data, you'll be going. But when you have data, then you know how to make, perfect decisions, good decisions, and you will not be in want of, growth. And we're talking about sustainable development, and then the more accurately we have data, if the data is accurate, then we can do more informed decisions. That is very, very important. And it is applicable to all areas. I think he mentioned about the farming community. I recently attended a conference on artificial intelligence, and people all around the world, they came and presented data about Ghana. So my only question was, why don't we do the same? So I think we, as as all stakeholders who all use data, we should come together and make sure that we just use and create data so that we can manage our space better. Thank you.
Good. So a lot of the time we hear about data gaps, data challenges in Ghana, and then we also hear about unemployment and all kinds of, and then the youth unemployment especially. Is there opportunity for employment around the data challenges and data gaps that we find in the country? Any of you can start. Okay, since you have the mic, probably.
Well, it was handed me. So, of course, again, from the perspective of a programmer and a product developer, wherever you see there's potential value and there's the demonstrated value, there's a product. So, yes, there is a lot of exciting areas for data. The area I think it was you that mentioned about if you take waste collection and then you want to find out what are the waste collection needs in your neighborhood and how often would they want it to be collected, how much are they willing to pay, and all those. They are all questions of numbers and data. So I think that it's a mindset about being able to derive value from data and whatever data sources that are important to you. There are companies that are built. I work for companies that just providing builds upon providing services on market prices alone, and that is data, and somebody has been able to capture the value in that and then find somebody who's interested and then make business out of it. So there are several interesting places.
Thank you. When William was presenting, there's this portion in the data roadmap that's they mentioned citizen-generated data. And I think this also relates to what you do in Farmerline, right? So probably you may want to throw a bit of some light on it, and if there are opportunities in there for young people here, you can also let us know.
Okay, definitely yes. There is opportunity in data. Farmerline is actually an example of such gap that we identified. And this was founded by two university graduates from Ghana. It's a wholly Ghanaian company. And we do understand the challenge when it comes to agriculture, the extension farmer ratio, access to good agronomic advice. You will rely on an AEA, which is an agri extension officer, to go to the community to train farmers on best practices. We saw this as an opportunity by combining technology and converting this information that already exists in hard copy books on shelves, repackaging it in a way that farmers can understand because of literacy issues. So for me, the clear opportunity is the data gap that exists. You can use that as a means to create business that solves the challenge of, let's say, farmers getting access to real-time information on market prices within their vicinity, or, for example, getting to know what the weather condition would look like in the next few days. And this is critical for farmers to make informed decisions on how they plan their day. If they have to go and apply fertilizer, for an example, or apply chemical on their farm, if it rains, all that investment is going to wash down. But if they get an information which hitherto they wouldn't have had access, they might probably be looking in the sky to predict what the weather would look like. But because we're combining data with various forms of technology, we're delivering this using a mobile phone, the farmer is able to make informed decision that, okay, I'll wait, I'll go and then do my application of fertilizer or chemical the following day, or postpone it to a different time. Regards to the issue about citizen-generated data, yes, it's also a way to create value to help farmers, in our case, to better improve the way they do things. But it has to be done ethically. And that's why there are rules and there are frameworks within which we are governed to work. You can't take farmers' data and go and sell to a third party. That is breaching the farmers' privacy right. If you want to use the farmers' data for anything, you need to seek consent as to what it is to do. And these are things that we do as a business. And so yes, there's a lot of opportunity, but we need to work within a guided framework so that we are doing legal business and we are being rewarded for that. So I think that would be my response.
Radhika.
Just to add, I think 2 or 3 things to what's already been said. At least my life, I don't know yours, changed with the internet. There's a before and after the internet. Because you don't have to rely on somebody showing you how to do something, whether it's a YouTube video or it's looking at detailed instructions, you can teach yourself. And I think it's the same thing with citizen-generated data. GSS is very open, they're doing some pilots, but for a long time, there wasn't an openness to citizen-generated data. But that kind of data has had enormous impact and can still have impact, whether it's calling attention to a problem that's not being addressed, take sanitation or waste. Many of our countries, including Ghana, have problems, right? We find the rubber and the plastic all over. What stops any of you from actually working with OpenStreetMap or any of the other initiatives to actually map some of those things? There are many areas which are simply not on Google Maps, but are important actually to have that, to be able to, whether it's to run a business, to look at patterns in terms of what's happening. So I think as young people, there are a number of opportunities, both to collect data responsibly and make it available to call attention to problems, or whether to start a business, develop an app. So I think there are a number of new things. I mean, all of the businesses we find come out of young people who saw an opportunity and found a way to address it responsibly. So how many of you know about OpenStreetMap? This is very sad. You know that they meet right here in this place. The Kofi Annan Center is an enormous accelerator for doing all kinds of things. So those of you who don't know, is Enoch and other colleagues who are here, please see them. There are things that you could be teaching yourself in terms of skills. I feel like I'm doing PR. Huh? The only reason I'm doing it is because to tell you, some of the opportunities to learn are right here. So take advantage, do something, and figure out how you can call attention to problems or find a way to solve them.
Okay, let me add on a little bit to what Radhika said. So Radhika made mention of the fact that these days you can learn yourself, whether it is through YouTube. The internet is giving too much opportunities for people. So what can't you learn from the internet? I mean, education is supposed to be you acquiring knowledge, not the way we've assumed it to be, like passing through a formal structure, like the school building. No. And when you look at some of the big people that have set up businesses in the world, like the Bill Gates and the rest, it's through their own knowledge acquisition. Those are the directions we are not looking at. As young people, I mean, when we have the time and we have the enthusiasm and the zeal, these are the things we should be learning using our internet for. I mean, of course, the social part is what Africa actually has that a little part of the Westerners don't have. So it's nice to use it socially, but then there are other opportunities, huge opportunities in there. read about things, anything that comes up in your mind that you think is possible. Go over the internet, just read about it. You find even videos. In fact, your math calculations, you can get formulas through YouTube. Somebody who is teaching you throughout. So the opportunities are huge. And we all keep complaining of problems. Almost everybody here has a problem about something in Ghana that he has complained about probably this week. What stops you from giving a solution to it? And most of the time, so we are talking about data. There is a data that can support that your idea of how to solve the problem is a good one. Find data, bring up your solution, put together a proposal. There are a lot of things that can be done this way. We see a lot of things and we just complain, but we don't do anything about it. Read the essence of your internet, read about it, use it. Like she rightly mentioned, in the data eco space, Statistical Service now, our data is open and free. In fact, almost every report that we've done is out, sitting on our website. In fact, even the data set for the service are sitting on the website. Analyze it further, make meaning out of it, write reports out of them, reshape the data for somebody else's consumption based on a company's need, or in a way you think when you shape it, some company will like it, or some part of the population will be interested. There are things we haven't looked at yet, but they are all sitting in front of us. I think we should just explore a little bit more and try to be a little more innovative. The solutions are just sitting in front of us, and the opportunities are just seated right in front of us.
Great. So I'll give you the opportunity to add just a little with a twist of helping. There are a lot of students here, helping the students here.
Thank you so much. So I think apart from what the panelists said, I would like to add one key thing. You have to look for networking and mentorship opportunities. You see, all of us are here. Just find out who can help you in what manner. That is how we all also go. We didn't come to the world by knowing everything. You see, so networking is so important, and learn to get mentored by somebody. That is very, very important in this area, because every day there are new things coming out, and so whatever you feel that you're passionate about and you want to learn more, you could just find always somebody who could just help you out, and so get that opportunity. Thank you.
Let's talk about partnerships. So what sort of partnerships exist that those of us gathered here should know about, and also what are the opportunities for partnership that can help in the data ecosystem generally in the country? So let's start from William. Yes.
Okay, so I'll refer to the CEO for Kofi Annan Center. He rightly mentioned the fact that they were looking at adding some indicators to the census questionnaire, which is something we do. As long as it comes early enough in the planning stage, so it is meant for Ghana and to develop Ghana. Whatever we are collecting, whatever we are putting together is supposed to serve the public good. If it's not for the people, what will be our needs? So we do such stuff. We have offices in all the regions, for instance. We have very competent people. In fact, currently our qualification to enter Statistical Service, if it doesn't change anytime soon, is masters and beyond. So even at the regions, very competent, experienced people, 12-year work experience and above. Business development, business proposals, data analysis, market analysis for businesses. Somebody to point you in the right direction, they are there. You don't need to even come to the head office. And it's part of our mandate now. People more human-centered, more public-centered, more relationship. We are supposed to serve your need. In fact, we are called a public service institution. We are there to serve your needs. So within us, the opportunities are there. We all have the internet, we have social media, Twitter and stuff. Do a little research. There are a lot of institutions, like the lady mentioned. There are a lot of institutions that come up with a lot of projects. These days, there are a lot of webinars and stuff like that. You don't need to be at a physical location. People are teaching stuff, people are discussing stuff, people are keeping networks. from different locations. There are others in other parts of the world. You join such networks and learn from each other. People are way advanced, so that you can leapfrog and join the networks. There are people I know here who, from their university, they just jump into some global institution. Yes, there are some here I know. And in fact, sometimes they become the Ghana reps and then the African reps, and that's it. Because we have brilliant people in Ghana, that much I can admit. It's just that we are not exploring, we are not being enthusiastic about moving out of our space and thinking, putting our thoughts forward. Yes, the timid time is past. Now people are allowed to speak. So those who can't even talk, social media is giving you the opportunity. Use them for such things, because there are too many opportunities sitting out there. Google opportunities in the data ecospace and see what you see. Have a little time and read around it. The opportunities are just enormous. I can't list them.
Partnerships stuff.
Okay, I'm going to be predictable. I'm going to do some cheerleading for the things that are actually happening and then talk a little bit about what needs to happen.
Great.
Not every statistical office actually is like Ghana's statistical service. I think, as you saw from William's presentation, they're doing a number of different partnerships to try out different ways of collecting data, new types of sources, combining spatial and other things. These partnerships came about because of their leadership. They showed that they were willing to try things and be open. And so when other partners all over the world were looking at who do we work with, who do we support, Ghana becomes a question of, an obvious choice. So that's the first thing that I would emphasize, is the leadership, somebody who sees the opportunities, who sees the possibilities and then works on them. Secondly, I would say, don't look at partnerships as being about money. Sometimes we reduce partnerships of, can I get money? Can you give me money? But it's the question of really collaborating to do something differently. And I think those are some of the areas where we don't focus on. Can you help me use my data to come up with a new solution? Can students be involved in a new type of data collection, maybe to put some things on the map which wouldn't otherwise happen? And I think those are important. And the third one, which I hope William Michael will get to in more detail, is what's required to make partnerships work, especially on data. It's making sure that our data sets can actually speak to each other. Because if we produce things in our own little silos, then collaboration also becomes difficult. So I think we need the leadership, we need the openness to collaborate and not reduce it to money. And then we need to do things in a way that allows our different areas of work to connect. But I can go into more details.
Worlali, I want you to have much focus still on partnership, but I want you to talk to us with a focus on partnership at the local level, community level. So I may be a student here and I see maybe a sanitation issue in my area and I want to go around forming partnership to solve it. How do I go about it?
Yeah, I think it's really important. You cannot succeed in this world of business or anything without, forming partnerships. I'll come to your question in terms of within the local, but then I just want to give sort of a typical example, which is the story of Farmerline. The company was founded by two graduates, as I mentioned. One of them is an engineer, so he can code and do all that. The other is more into natural resource development, so he did sort of agriculture, you call it. The two of them came together to decide to bring this to life. So among your peers, you should be looking at how do I collaborate and not just think that you are the only one who can fix everything. You need to share ideas, see how you can support each other to bring your idea to life. The other aspect, which I think we mentioned also with the institutions, with government, organizations, MDAs, and the likes. You see a problem in a community. The only way you can bring that solution to life is approaching such institution, proposing the solution you have. We talked about not focusing on money, and I think that is very critical. Focus on solving the problem, and the money becomes a byproduct of that. But when you focus on, getting the reward of money, then you won't get a chance to even, execute any problem, solve any problem at all. And that, for me, I think is one of the critical successes that any organization or any person may want to follow through to see his idea grow beyond just from the concept to actually solving real problems and then earning some returns from that. Example of what we do. So we do engage at the district level with agri extension officers. As I mentioned, there's a challenge with what extension officers can do. We didn't put them aside. When we are going to these communities, we go engage with the district extension officers to tell them about our solution. And they lead us to talk to the farmers because the farmers have built a relationship with them. And this further enhances the adoption of our technology. So if you look at things in those perspectives, it really helps to improve adoption, makes your idea more, sustainable, and even to add to it, getting chance or opportunity for funding. Because by talking to people engaging, you get to know there are even opportunities for you to, support your cost in bringing these ideas to life.
Okay, so as far as partnership is concerned, especially for young persons here, in the developer world now, there are so many developer ecosystems that you can join to. What I would go on to add is perhaps with the statistical service, I think that I was excited with your presentation because now there is so much data being opened up to, despite the popular opinion that the AI and deep learning is out there. I know a few people in the ecosystem who are also playing with data, and I'm excited today because beyond just putting up the iris data to play with, you can have some real data to play with. So I think that going forward, a greater engagement, because I see that I'm speaking also listening, there is also the developer community and the youth tech community that is driving a lot of innovation in the country. So I think they should have greater involvement with them. And then the last PR, the writing in the sector, Kofi Annan has been doing a lot of that to support technology. Whether the IoT is meets here, I think once every Saturday. But right in the country, the oldest technology, sustained technology group that I know is the Linux user group that has been meeting in this center for the past 15 years. And people like myself and the other great persons that have passed through those runs. And by the last check, we had people working in Japan that were like cut their teeth here, and then we have some people working in Berlin and other places. So we are looking for those developer ecosystems and technology ecosystems that resonates with you and join them, and you can start from anywhere and then discover.
Okay, I would give you my example. One is I'm part of Open Data Science Network where we communicate, it's for researchers, okay, so we share a lot of data. But this is a simple example I would give to anybody who would like to start something. Don't be afraid to start anything. Whenever you have an idea, look, now social media is just there. Okay, so for me, what I do is if I am interested in something, then I go to Twitter and then I check who are the people who are, if there's any support group, so I immediately follow them. So I get hooked to that network and I get all information related to that network. Do you understand? So it's very simple. And when you follow them, naturally you'll see all the leading players in that particular area, and then you get hooked to them and they will definitely mentor you. This is an easy shortcut way for you to make sure that your projects, whatever you want, can work. Thank you.
Please pass the mic to William. Now, Radhika mentioned the last thing I wanted to talk about, working in silos. In fact, even though we are focusing on data, working in silos, it's a whole attitude that we transfer into sectors of our lives. And it happens that it has affected data as well. So you can talk about it generally, and then with a little focus on data. All right. So working in silos in the data ecosystems. What are your thoughts? Any advice, any recommendations? Yeah.
Okay, so in my 15 years of working in the public sector, the biggest problem I found in the public sector was the working in silos thing. I identified it as the biggest impediment to development. It is the only thing that triggered me joining the SDGs agenda early, just when it started, because of the collaboration and partnerships. Because I believe that's the only way we can go. Sharing resources, sharing knowledge, it drives, it pushes people. It is the biggest problem public sector has. We are hoping that digitization and some of these agendas of collaborations, that examples people have, will keep driving that change. It won't happen in a day. And in fact, Radhika keeps mentioning how our data is open. It takes one person to drive a change. We started being people-focused, I think about 7 years ago. We decided to form a center called the Data Center, because we realized everybody was technical, and when people come in, we don't have a human face. We are just eager to analyze our thing. You are even coming to waste our time. So part of that unit is supposed to be the data service unit. Unfortunately for me, I had been transferred out of Accra 3 years before that. I had just come back in, and I was just thrown there. I love people, and I love to serve people. That's what makes me happy. So I just decided, and it was phenomenal. You tell people that don't come here again. All you have to do is send me a mail, and your data, if it is for free, as at that time we were charging a little bit on some portions of the data. But now, no, we are not, unless you are pushing us to do something a little different from what we usually do. And truly speaking, I sent you via email, and people were amazed. That's how small little things of not staying one corner can make you. In fact, it made me very popular. I became the most, I'll tell you, when I get to town, I was the most popular person in Statistical service. Because you get to every meeting, and your name, somebody has sent your email before, but they've never met you. You say William Addo, and they say, oh, we know you. Like, that's how easy trying to fix a problem. Because I knew that was a problem. And once I can get, it's a long story, but those ones is for another day. There are impediments you have to go through. You find enemies and things like that. So that one, I mean, you should learn to solve problems. And the money becomes a byproduct, like our friend said. So the silo system is our biggest problem. If you decide to share, you get the best out of it. If your data, based on your knowledge, you generated a particular data, and so somebody looks at it and tells you, no, you made a mistake here. You are not learning to improve. That's the only way you get to develop yourself. Otherwise, you think you know it all, and you think you have it all. Luckily, you would have acquired additional knowledge. But that is the part we don't look at. And mind you, if I collected the data, I am the one who knows all the nitty-gritties. If anybody, that is a lot of our fear. If anybody picked up the data and they think the person didn't give me any money and the person has taken my data, don't forget, if the person has to do any further research, a project on the data, he needs you to understand the basics. That is when sometimes you even become a consultant. So your eagerness to share with people, work with people, creates more opportunities. From my experience, that's what I found out. In fact, that's the truth. Opening up, sharing with people, talking to people, asking questions, saying what you know, teaching people is what is created opportunities for me. I'm being frank here. And it's not money. Yes, it confirms that. It's not money. I go into an office and, oh, I know a deputy minister. I've even forgotten. And they call my name and he says, oh, William, let him come. That's no money. But somebody will pay 20,000 to get somebody to book an appointment. There are enormous opportunities in there. Just open up, share what you have, discuss things with people. When whatever you're doing, partner with somebody, call somebody in, somebody you think can help you. Don't worry about somebody taking it away. The fact that you can create means you were actually created to create. There are a lot of people who can do that. So you can create 1,000 of that idea. Don't be bothered. Just let it go.
Radhika. Silo.
Yeah. So we had a project. So it's actually Youth in Agricultural Research work that we're doing with the Mastercard Foundation. And one of our colleagues actually came to your office, and you were told that you need to come, you will send the data by email. So that's a testimony to that. Yeah. So congrats on the job.
Silo mentality in the way we work, as far as data is concerned in development as well.
I mean, at one level, I think the silos are natural. You need a division of labor, you need people to focus on different things. But I think the two types of silo, what you call silo mentalities, which are, I think, the most dangerous, are one which is in our heads, where we think we can just focus on a predefined area of work and we don't need to interact, we don't need to share. For example, I mean, in the work that Farmerline does, climate change is not something which is out there, which is just the responsibility of people who focus on the environment. It affects the farmers, what crops they can grow, when they can grow it, what type of extension service is needed, how to deal with different types of pests and health issues, which are coming up precisely because climate is becoming more variable and it's becoming, at some level, there is warming. So I don't think it's something where they can just do the same thing year after year without starting to collaborate and break those different silos. The second issue, I think, is institutional areas where we protect our data because we think it's ours. Who will come to me if I don't, if I don't keep it close to me? And I think that's what we need to break because the kind of problems we're facing today require us to work together. We cannot do it alone. Just taking the example of climate change, it has to go into the educational curriculum, it has to go into the health, the way we provide health services. Government has to take it on board in how they design infrastructure. So all of that requires a different type of engagement and whole of government, whole of society approach to deal with. And it's not something we can do without breaking those silos. But I think the third issue that I've been talking about a little bit earlier is when it comes to data, and this is an area that I spend most of my time when it comes to data, is trying to get collaboration across institutions in a way that calls for us to do something different with the data. It should be possible for machines to speak to machines. So we shouldn't have to all depend upon William being open to be able to get data. It should be possible for my institution or my app to be able to put data that Ghana Statistical Service provides. And that requires APIs, requires putting data in a particular format that makes it easy. It requires the fact that we put our regulations and our laws in a different way that allows for that it's no longer dependent upon just simply the openness and the willingness of people, but it should become routine that we can find ways to share that data. So we need to break the silos in our minds, we need to break the silos in how we work, and we need to break the silos when it comes to data to allow for that kind of seamless sharing of data across institutions, platforms, and apps.
Right. The silo mentality at the local level, has it affected your line of work? And how, if it did, how did you go around solving it?
I think for us, the work we do, especially with farmers, it can't be done like all by yourself. What I mean to say is, even going into a community to want to engage farmers, to invite farmers to come and listen to you, there's a process to that. Aside what I shared about me working with agri-extension officers, we also have to talk to community leaders. We need to engage with them, try to pitch our idea to what we're doing and how that is important to the well-being of farmers. I don't really, and I guess for us that is the psyche we have. So in most interactions that we find ourselves, basically we are open to see how can we collaborate to get things done, as opposed to, okay, you know what, we should just drive it all by ourselves, and then so I wouldn't have maybe a clear example. If it comes to other areas, I can share some of the failures that we've learned. Let me probably use this as an example. So when we first, in terms of development of our technology, what we have now, the first iteration of it was an SMS application, okay, which was meant, and it's not to say the application was wrong, but then it was meant to send information to farmers who were illiterate, so they could not read and understand. This was the team sitting in their office thinking that they are geniuses, coding, and then seeing how they can transfer gaps of good agricultural practice information to farmers in SMS. But the whole truth is that these farmers could not understand. So they reached out to these extension officers within the community and asked, and this was a workshop, and they told them point flat that this is wrong. Yes, it's a nice technology, but farmers cannot, appreciate the information you've shared with them because they can't read. So this is some of the collaboration and silo mentality where you probably sit in your room and then think through the problem and think you figured it all out. And then you don't take time to talk to who your customer is to find out what it is that they want or they need for you to tailor the solution. So that's an example I would say didn't work well for us, and we had to go back to the drawing board, taking their feedback and improving it. And that's how far we've come as a company where we are working in 13 other African countries with our technology. So it's not just a local company, but then doing other exploits in other parts of Africa.
Thank you.
So the silent mentality, I think I would want to borrow from Professor Queno's statement that we should choose our helpers carefully. I think that as an implementer, and I've deployed a few solutions, data solutions for people, and I see that sometimes the challenge is found in having multiple funding sources. So people come in with their programs already designed in a certain way, and in instances where even different departments and agencies will be able to leverage on earlier works of other persons, because the solutions or the implementation or the pilot, whatever the funding has been designed in a particular way, they would have to do that. I have two government institutions that have brilliant digital data collection institutions. One is nationwide, has the ability to collect, do surveys. One of them was pushed in real time, and within 2 hours to do a survey, and they got like 50,000 response within 3 days. And not to mention any names, but after that, I'm hearing other people coming up with sample size of 2,000 and making generalization about one national issue or the other. And they have to invest in mobile devices, they have to invest in technology, but they were not allowed to be able to leverage on these ones, even just to be able to just borrow their devices for the data collection, because that is what the funding says. So a lot have been said. I would say that putting it out there, let's choose our help carefully, and perhaps we should also use that how we manage the brand Ghana, especially when people come in with helpers, as far as this side of the mentality is concerned.
Thank you. So those of us, those in academia, now we know it's an issue that needs to be addressed. So how do you think can help address this issue from the academic way?
Okay, so as you rightly said, we like to work in our own corners. We do our research, that is for our promotion, and we don't disseminate information. It stays in our desk forever, So we research, we know everything, but we don't want to share it with the world, because that is how communities develop. So that is one thing which we have to really break. We have to make sure that we just relate, and then we make sure that whatever we do, the research has been is benefiting the community. Like, let's say, for example, I am researching on a particular area which he's also researching on. Okay, it is very beneficial for me to share the information with him, so that the two of us, after doing our individual research, and analyzing our data, we could jointly do it, and it will bring out better output, so, and it will be beneficial for the society. So that is very, very important. I will give you one example. I think in 2009, I had an artificial intelligence bootcamp here in Kofi Annan Center. So I was doing a part of machine learning code, which I wanted to complete. There was a person who was from Germany. He said, no, you don't have to do it. It is available open, So just go and pick the code and then enhance on it. See how easy work becomes. This is 2009 I'm talking about, so that even in 2009, if we were able to get, collaboration and make sure that our data is shared, then how much more now, So we are much advanced in the security and the privacy and all the ethics part now. So I think it's a trust that you have to have. Yes, there might be risks, in which area don't we have risks? We have risks everywhere. So we just have to take a bit of a calculated step like he advised, and then make sure we just go ahead. But we should not have a silo mentality, then we'll be islands, will not be nations. That is it.
Thank you very much. Any feedback, comment, question from the audience? If you have anything to say, you show your hand and we'll give you the opportunity. Has everything been said up here? Okay, there's a hand.
Thank you so much. My name is Annan. Please, my concern has to do with the data. Being able to reach out to the offices for data. Sometimes you get there, and if you are not from an authority or from an institution, you are not allowed to enter, even to talk of seeking the data. How do you balance that? As an individual, I could do my own research or attach to somebody for a research, and I need the data to complete it. Do I need to come with a tag from an institution or an organization before I enter into your office or any other office? Thank you.
Any other comments, question, so that we take all? Yeah.
Yes, my name is Farmerline. Most of the time, the GSS will say they have data on that, but we've never heard them making an announcement on it. Let's say you have a data on unemployment. Why wouldn't you come out to say this year we have this number of unemployment or employment? We only leave it to the politicians to come and tell us. So I will beg them that if they can add that together.
Thank you. So I think that will be all, right? Okay. I think the second question went that. Oh, sorry. Your name and then you tell it.
Thank you. My name is Christian Z. So thank you for your various speeches. So my question is about our youth or the people out there who cannot read English, understand data you're talking about. They are talented. Even some are much better than us. They know how to do things, but none of us, we don't know them. We don't know them. So they are there. Some of them, they are building manual work or any other things, but they don't have money. How do you provide, or how do you get data from them? And if you are able to get those kind of data, which provision are you making to leverage the other side? Thank you.
So let's start with the last one. What kind of data can we get from segments of our society who cannot read or write? And how are we making them take advantage of available data? And then, do we have to come from a recognized organization to have access to data? And then why is the Statistical Service and probably all the partners in the National Statistics System not being proactive in coming out, in telling us the kind of data they have, except that they give them to the politicians to talk about. Any of us can answer, but I think 2 are for William, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so let me start from the top. To be somebody or to have a tag before coming for data, no, in my office, that's a thing of the past. In fact, at least for the past 7 years, no. I mean, you don't need to come from an institution, whether an individual, a student. In fact, I remember a particular example, a particular lecturer from, I think he was lecturing at GIJ, he was either a vice rector or something from UPSA. He insisted that his students, they don't pick just the data. I think he wanted to encourage physical data usage. Don't pick the data just from the internet. They said they are too lazy at it, and in the future, that is when you need that. Now you should learn to deal with the sources. So you should come to Statistical Service, the source of the data. So all the groups in that level, I think they were level 200s that he taught, they all will come. I think he had put them into groups. The assignment was in groups. They will all come to Statistical Service. And you must have evidence that you came to the source. So we take a picture, they record our conversations, our discussions, and then plus the data. And I mean, we went through that for all the groups. I can count as much as 18 groups, and they came on different days. So by the second time, we were used to them, and we knew they would come. Also, once they start talking, I know your problem, don't worry. Let's get the data first, and then go ahead with it. So there's no level. It's to serve Ghana. It's for the almost, in fact, not almost, about 30 million people in Ghana. So there are no levels. I can't speak for the other organizations, but I can speak for Statistical Service. The second one, coming out with information. To be frank, we are hoping to be a little more media proactive or media friendly. We've actually started, in fact, the past 6 months, at least what Statistical Service does, who we are, and things like that. I've done not more than between 15 to 20 minutes interviews on mostly TV the past 6 months. I've done more than 10. That's the idea. We have to let Ghana know who we are and the opportunities we can provide, because the data is the foundation of a lot of things that we can do in this country. So with our surveys, our censuses, we come out, we do workshops, dissemination workshops, we do press releases. In fact, we do press releases minimum twice a month on PPI and CPI. Those are particular products, the consumer price index and the producer price index. The GDP is quarterly. So we come out. Every survey, the responses, we've come out. Probably, yes, maybe if we have 30 TV stations or 30 radio stations, probably not all of them covered and probably that they weren't watching. So yes, and we agree we have to do more. So the intention is that we have to do more to reach a lot more people. The politicians have a purpose for it, so we can't fight them. And when you have to come and fight them, you are putting yourself in the middle. Somebody will say you are here or here, and we don't want to be anywhere. We want to be Ghanaians. We want to serve the general public. It will help with our credibility and for you to trust us so that we can collaborate and work better. So that's why sometimes in the heat is when we don't want to act. But if you write to us even in the heat and you want evidential proof, you write to us that we should send you this information officially. The email address was tell it, or if you didn't want it written, we'll do that for you to defend whatever you want to defend. But we won't come and fight a politician because he said so. Most of our things are sitting on a website, which anybody can Google. So if anybody is playing propaganda with it, I mean, the data is data. It's how you interpret it. So yes, you can't say otherwise. Somebody is interpreting it in another way. I mean, I can't just jump out, sit on media and just start fighting the person. But if anybody has a problem with it and you want us to say it the way it is, we'll do that for you. The last one, yes, when we are collecting data, to be frank, there's no disaggregation. So, for instance, if you have to go into a tree community area for data, we take people who can speak tree. If we have to go to an Hausa speaking area, we take people who can speak Hausa. So the person holding the tablet to come and collect the data can speak your local dialect. Otherwise, we take interpreters for the few areas that we don't have the language. Yeah, we take interpreters. So in our case, we are leaving no one behind. That's not how we work. We can't leave anyone behind. There shouldn't be a barrier.
All right. Thank you so much. Sorry. Yes. Maybe you should have the mic here.
Okay. I think since I have the mic now, this is going to. Excuse me. I just came to. Let me just say, Mr. GSS. Forgive me. You made a presentation which I got the information after coming in. GSS has some data and information. I would say a lot of data available over there. But the issue is the accessibility of this data. If I need data, I'm far away. Do I always have to come to the office? There is this Ghana Open Data Initiative, which I think the initiative are written to each institution. Not all of them, but each of them, a whole lot of them. But on this portal, I can tell you, since I knew this portal, it has been the same number until recently. There have been some efforts to revamp it and make it up to date. Now, the question goes to administrative boundaries, because I like geospatial a lot. We have new regions in Ghana. Now, where do I go to find these administrative limits? How do I get it? Do I have to be copying from people's pen drive or whatever? If it's GSS or GSS part of the stakeholders, this information should be readily accessible to each and everyone who needs it at any time, because this is information we need for sensors, all these stuff. These boundaries and information should not be something you should fight in order to get access to them. So that's my comment, and I think something can be done and should be done urgently. Thanks. The next question from a remote contributor or someone here says, I hear our data is protected, but I want to know how secure is our data with you, GSS? Do you have data on criminal records in Ghana? Thank you. And the last one says, please, could we get a list of tech institutions or groups that accept programmers freely in Ghana for us to join?
Thank you very much. And to add up, Enoch and Stephen, I think they are the OpenStreetMap representatives in Ghana. They are doing some great work. They recently do some mapping on the Eastern Corridor from Tema way down to Paga. And I think they are also mapping the flood-prone areas using the OpenStreetMap. So you can contact them.
All right, so I'll let you take the tech organizations that are taking on developers.
So first of all, geographical location. If now in almost all the cities there are tech hubs, so that will be your first point of call if you want physical location. So there's the Accra hub, there's the iSpace. There's the Kumasi and so on. But again, she mentioned that now because of social media, you can always go on Twitter or any of the social media places to find out the communities. But the Linux Accra is open to everybody and it's free. The IoT event in Accra is also free. The Linux Accra meets every Saturday 24.
So for us as a company, we also open opportunities for students and also developers alike to come serve with us for either for national service or through a fellowship program. So if you have time, just go to our website, www.farmerline.co, and go to the career session. You can, express your interest in, being part of a family, and then we can take it through that. So there is opportunity, at least for us. There's some of what we can do, and my colleague Lee already has mentioned hubs that are around where you can join, or forums that you can join to expose yourself to building your own skill. So yeah.
So we have 3 minutes. I give 1 minute to Eva, 1 minute to Radhika, and then 1 minute to William. So Radhika.
I mean, on this issue of certain types of foundational data which should be available, particularly the shape files and boundaries for the new districts. I mean, I was just asking William why it's not there on the website. I mean, he gave me something, but the question is, if people don't push for it, it will take its own time. And I think that's the reason why I was asking for a show of hands in the beginning to say, how many of you actually tried to get a particular data set and ran into a problem? If people don't hear from you, you know, it's going to be left to the same thing. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't have to be from an institution to ask for publicly funded data. It should be available. And now that Ghana has the right to information, which should be operational from next year, that's something that can fundamentally change this culture of a lack of information sharing. In my country, with all its problems, it was one of the most transformational pieces of legislation ever. It's been used for everything, to figure out why the teacher doesn't come to the school for X number of months in the year or teach, or who has gotten this contract to provide a particular thing, or how much money was spent on building this road which we don't see. You know, all of those kinds of things. Unless citizens are active, unless developers are active, you know, institutions will take their time because it's complicated. He had a perfectly rational reason for why the data is not on the website. But unless you push for it, it will take its time, right, William?
Okay, so let's have Eva, then William will come.
Okay, William, I think you talk long, that's why he has given the mic to you. Okay, so I just wanted to bring into your minds that data is just not always digital, numbers or alphabets. A picture is data. Again, I'm just putting my country because one of the TV stations, NDTV, okay, it just launched one particular simple idea to light the parts of New Delhi, which is the population of Ghana. Okay, to light the dark places. Okay, so all that they said was just use your phone. Okay, you don't have to learn or know anything, any language. Just on your location, take a snap. Okay, take a picture, send it to us. As simple as that. That's data. That's all I wanted to tell you. So data is just not what you don't have to be literate to share data. So thank you.
Which one? So your question had already been answered. I'm sure you weren't here. You don't need to be an anybody to come and get data. No, I'm sure you were out at that time. And then the boundaries issue. Okay, so we're lucky to have worked with regional integration and then local governments since we have the most detailed frame of Ghana's map in Ghana. But we are not the official authority to say this is it. Some last details of the stretches, because some places it crosses from one town to the other, are being sorted out, but we won't be the authority. Like you're saying, we need to push. And I agree. It was one of the reasons why the 2010 census delayed. We are usually not able to say that because the districts have changed, and we collected the data based on the previous districts. So we now had to disaggregate. Otherwise, the new districts lack data to plan for the next 10 years. Unfortunately, the authorities that had to finish the boundary issues had not dealt with it. We had to look for funding, bring them together, push them to go and actually negotiate for boundaries with chiefs and the rest, get that done before we finish with our work and we could publish. So yes, like the gentleman said, it's not everything you can just jump out and come and say. But sometimes you have to play diplomatically so you don't have problems with people, because no matter what, it is the people that give you the data. And it is some of the people in power who provide you with the resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has been a time of talking about data for sustainable development in Ghana. And with me here, the panelists that you heard again, William Addo from the Ghana Statistical Service, Radhika from UNDP, Worlali Senyo from Farmerline. Eva is the president of Marshall University, and then we have me, Okai, from the Kofi Annan ICT Center. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you for your good questions. And I think next we are having lunch, right? So from here, we're going to have lunch. Thank you very much. Bye.
Nice clap for them.